Hi, welcome to my channel. This time, we'll join a tour organized by Dr. William Lane Craig's ministry, Reasonable Faith. It included lectures from Dr. Craig that relate to the places we'll be visiting. The first night, we were booked at Dan Panorama Hotel in Tel Aviv. Because I arrived early at the hotel, I decided to explore Jaffa and hopefully have a bit of time to take a boat ride in the Mediterranean Sea.
This is the Sir Charles Clare Park in Tel Aviv. There's the Mediterranean Sea. There's an old building. These are the line of hotels lining the seashore. There's the Dan Panorama Hotel where we stay. That one is the Intercontinental Hotel. And there are those other hotels. So there's the cafe. There's something there too. Farther down, that's the water park there for kids, and some other park too. It's quite a nice view. This is the view of the Mediterranean Sea from the Jaffa port. Hello, and those are old buildings. It seems to be still being lifted, and there's for sale there. Maybe you would like to have a look at it and buy it. Then there's the old port over there with just something that remains. And there's the Mediterranean Sea taking you to Greece, Italy, and beyond.
back and establish ourselves as an independent Jewish state in our own homeland, which at the time was called Palestine, and had been called Palestine for almost 2,000 years by then. And so basically he writes this book called Alt Neuland, or Old New Land, in which he outlines his vision for how the Jews can sort of get together and get organized and end up with having a Jewish state in Palestine. And he publishes that book around the very, very, very late 1800s, and in 1898 he establishes the Zionist movement with the first Zionist Congress, which happens in Switzerland in a city called Basel. And that's the beginning of the Zionist movement. And when you think of it, 1948, talking about a Jewish state is literally science fiction. The Jewish nation is completely dispersed throughout the world. They are not organized in any way. They have no contact between the different communities in different countries. It's just the land has been under many different rules, but certainly not a Jewish rule for 2,000 years by then, and currently in the late 800s it's the Ottoman Turkish Empire that's controlling it, and so it's absolute science fiction. But he coins a phrase in that book where he says, if you want it, it's not a fable, meaning it can happen, actually come true, it can happen. And 50 years almost to the day, Israel became an international state. There was, an independent, I should say, state. It's through a whole set of circumstances that was not always fun, obviously, and not very positive, but at the end of all those circumstances, including 2 world wars, which in the Second World War included 6 million Jews being butchered in Nazi Europe for the very fact that they're Jewish, only for that. At the end of all that, there's enough sympathy in the United Nations to vote for the partition of Palestine, which allows both the Palestinian Arabs and the Palestinian Jews to declare their independence along certain boundaries that a certain community or committee set forth, and the Jews decide to go on that. They declare their independence, and 1948, May 14th, Israel becomes an independent state. So the city that we just passed is called Herzliya, after Theodor Herzl. We had big celebrations. We go according to the Jewish calendar, so it's the 5th day of the Jewish month of Iyar, which was a couple of weeks. No, about a week before May 14th. But in 1948, it was May 14th. And did you hear last Sunday of Arabs from different countries rioting against Israel? And that's because it was May 14th. It was their anger about Israel becoming a state. They've never come to terms with it. You need to remember, though, that in 1948, the United Nations Security Council voted not for a Jewish state in Palestine. They voted for a plan called the Partition of Palestine, which had very specific borders for both nations to declare their independence, and that plan passed. So both nations were given the equal opportunity to declare their independence. The Jews said, okay, great, even though it's not everything that we used to have in biblical times, at least it's part of what we had, and it's in the original homeland, and so we'll take it. The Arabs, both Palestinians and the Arab nations around us, said no, there will not be any Jewish presence between the Jordan River in the east and the Mediterranean Sea in the west, and they tried to fight it. And they made their own decisions, we made ours. 63 years later, you can see where we are, where they are. Thankfully, we had good leadership at the time that was helping us and navigating us in the right way. V, which is a Roman U, and an S, and then clearly, sorry, we're up here, the U and the S, and then very clearly, Pilatus. So you've got the I, U, S, Pius Pilatus, And then as they decipher the rest of this text, they find out that it says Pontius Pilate, the prefect or the governor of Judea, erected this building in honor of the Emperor Tiberius. And at that point, Pontius Pilate steps out of the pages of invented Christian mythology, if you will, and is proven to have been an actual fact, having existed, been the prefect, which is another word basically for the governor, what you know in the New Testament as the governor of Judea. And we find out that he really did exist, and he did live here in Caesarea, basically. He spent most of his time here in Caesarea because, like Herod, the Roman governors like the good life. But he vanishes basically from the narrative over time. He sort of vanishes from history. And we're not sure exactly why. One of the presumptions is a few hundred years after the life of Jesus, the Eastern Roman Empire, which is called the Byzantine Empire, become officially Christians, and then they're the followers of Christ. The Jews are the Christ killers, according to them. As they start reading the text of what they're supposed to believe in, which is the New Testament, they start realizing that, whoops, Houston, we have a problem. We're the ones who had him sentenced to death. It was a Roman governor. And they think that maybe Pontius Pilate became a bit of an embarrassment, and they sort of wiped him out of existence and wiped remains of him to try and get rid of that embarrassment. Usually it would be an enemy army that would take an estelle like this and put it face down and use it as tiles as a way to sort of erase the previous culture or humiliate it. We think it may have been Romans or Byzantines who did it after them because of Pontius Pilate. This is an authentic fake. The real one, the original one, is in the Israel Museum in Jerusalem, but it looks exactly like this. It's completely authentic in its look.
Did they use marble?
More of the Mediterranean Sea from Caesarea.
Okay, guys, let's gather around here.
That's the Mediterranean Sea. And we've got a huge tour group. Lots of people here at the moment.